I was alone, broke and depressed, living down in Grand Rapids, Michigan in the fall of 1991. I had quit my good job of 2 years, millwright in a veneer mill, up in the UP where I had lived since 1970, which ultimately broke my 5-year relationship up and ultimately the catalyst for breaking my band of 4 years up. I was 25 and got so down missing my old life that I tried tripping on acid for the first time, which definitely changed my perspective on life, but didn't change the overpowering feeling of defeat and sadness I was feeling. I had screwed up my life, and now my dreams were over and I was starting from zero all over again. I had a friend who dealt weed in GR, so I went to score a satchel. As I was waiting for him to make the deal, I noticed that he had an entertainment magazine on the couch, so I started to skim through it. I found a big ad which read, "Come and bring your guitar down. Open jam mic night at Missia's Tavern in Kalamazoo," which wasn't far from GR, about a 40-minute drive on the Freeway 131. I thought, hey, this sounds like fun, for I hadn't played guitar in front of people for a few months by this time. It was a gorgeous sunny fall day, and I asked my dealer friend if I hung out at his house for a bit, and he said, sure. I was cooking up a plan. I would hit the liquor store, which was around the block, and have a few drinks before I would head down to Kalamazoo, grab my guitar on the way, which was at my grandparents' farm in Wayland, a cow town 20 minutes south GR and 30 minutes north of Kalamazoo, which was where I was staying. When I got back to my friend's house, after buying a 5th of Canadian Mist whiskey and a 2-liter of squirt at the liquor store, I noticed that a good friend of mine, who used to be my grandparents' neighbor, was parked at the dealer's house, and I went inside to say hi and tell him my plan for the night. My buddy was excited because he knew I could play the guitar, but he noticed that the ad said that this was a blues bar. "You don't play the blues," he cried. I laughed because he had no clue how down I really was, but I reassured him that I could hold my own, especially if the band agrees to play one of the original songs I had written since I had moved downstate. So we partied until it started to get dark, and we made our way down US 131 to Kalamazoo. As we approached the city, we noticed that it was starting to get foggy out, and by the time we got there, it was cut with a knife, fog, and it was really dark by this time too, which was a stark contrast from just a couple hours before. We could barely see the road as we made our way down the side streets to where Misha's was located. I clearly remember that the scene was very surreal. The fog was so thick that you could visibly see it rolling down the street like a pure wall of haze. We were very disorientated because we had to park a quarter-mile away from the bar because of all the parked cars, yet we saw no signs of any other life on the street, and we tried to listen for the music to guide us, but there wasn't any. Did we come to the wrong place? By this time, my guitar was getting heavy on my shoulder, for it was a Gibson Les Paul, infamously heavy guitar. But I couldn't believe that my drunk ass was going to walk into a bar in the town where Gibson guitars were originally made, where a bunch of famous blues rock guitarists made their names and jammed some blues. We walked up to the bar, and as soon as my buddy opened the door, we were instantly smacked in the face with sound. When you walk into the bar, the bathrooms are to the right, and the waitress station was to the left, along with the small bar top. The stage was in front. You wouldn't believe how many people were jammed in this tavern. It was elbow to elbow, standing room only, and I had to keep adjusting my guitar so that it wouldn't thump someone. We ordered a drink from the waitress, and my buddy told her that we came from GR because we saw the ad in the paper, and he pointed to my guitar and said, he wants to jam. So the waitress went to the band on stage, which was a drummer, 3 guitar players, a bass guitarist, and 2 trombone players who were unplugged and ran all over the bar playing in sync. I was already intimidated and wanted to leave. This was too much. It was too packed. The waitress came back and told us that the band declined me jamming with them because they liked to know the people that were taking the stage. My buddy wasn't having it. He says to the waitress, "We came all through the fog to jam because the current entertainment paper that services Kalamazoo, Lansing, and Grand Rapids area read in big bold letters, 'Bring your guitar down and jam,' and then he pointed to my guitar." She couldn't argue with that logic, so she went back on stage to plead our case while the band was taking a breather. I was already over it. If they don't want me to jam, that's fine. I had a good buzz and didn't want the hassle. As we were waiting, we noticed an opening to sit at a table down in front of the stage, so we took it. Without notice, the guy on the microphone calls me up to the stage. Everyone on that stage were seasoned blues guys, complete with sunglasses and fedoras on. I was shaking in my boots because I obviously didn't fit in. Here I was, a 20-something looking like a wasted version of Bon Jovi amongst guys who looked like they were B.B. King's backup band. The band was so good. They played every note like it was signed and sealed by a Mississippi Delta blues juke joint, and I had no clue what a shuffle was at that time. I was a rocker who felt the blues, but could I play it? After I had plugged in, the leader came up to me and asked me what I wanted to play. I started to tell the guy that I had this real easy original song in the key of E, but before I could finish, he cut me off and said, "We don't play originals here." And so I started unplugging my guitar, when from behind the drums I hear, "What else do you know?" So I said that I knew Red House by Jimi Hendrix. The guy got a devilish look on his face and told me, "In the key of B, and you're going to sing it." I started the opening riff and we were off. It sounded glorious with all the seasoned musicians and the two horns blasting. I recall that I let all three guys play a guitar solo and wasn't even going to try. They all played like Dwayne Allman. LOL. But the leader looked at me insisting that I play. They wanted to see what I had. I played as straight as I could, playing the blues licks I could remember with as much feel as I could. Then I felt excitement from the crowd and played the guitar behind my head and with my teeth. The song ended, and we were greeted by the most thunderous and heartwarming applause I'd ever felt before. The crowd was still feverishly cheering and chanting, "One more." I went to sit down back at our table, and two waitresses told me that the bar owner wanted to buy me and my buddy a drink. As I was talking to the waitresses, I noticed that an old black guy who looked like John Lee Hooker with a three-piece suit on, fedora and sunglasses, just like Elwood Blues Brothers movie, sat down right next to me. By this time, the house band was back in full roar, and I was just sitting there in disbelief and excitement by what had just occurred. When all of a sudden I feel a gentle tug on my shirt sleeve. It was the old guy. He points his bony finger at the band, leans in on me and says in my ear, "See those guys up there, they play like this." And he moves his hand in a fast crawling motion, and then he turns to me and says, "But you boy, you play from your heart, you play from the heart," and I could feel my heart swell up. I motioned to my buddy to lean in so I could tell him what the old blues guy had just told me and introduce ourselves to him. My buddy says to me, "What old blues guy?" And through the thick smoke of the wall-to-wall packed bar, I searched and even went into the men's room to see if the guy went there, and nope. So I even took a look outside and couldn't hear or see a trace of this guy. There's no way that the 90-year-old blues guy could have escaped me, for I wanted to share with my buddy the good news. And the guy just vanishes without a trace. Between me and the door, there was at least 50 people standing there oblivious to what had happened. Did I get so drunk and high from the adulation that I morphed into another dimension, or was the old blues man a phantom? I don't know, but I have a witness, my buddy, and the old black blues guy from Kalamazoo has haunted me ever since. True story.